Welcome to the second video for this course. This video and the next video will be on topics covering the things you're going to need to know for the second assignment in this course. So for this video, we're going to be going over variables and data types. And in the video after this one, we're going to be covering the math library for JavaScript. And then after that, we'll get into the second assignment. So uh, getting into this video now, we are going to be going over, like I said, variables and data types. Um, what are variables? So here's some examples of variables right here. So to declare a variable, you can use what's called a keyword. And a keyword is just a special word that is reserved by the language that you cannot use. You cannot use it in your own way. You have to use it how the language wants you to use it, right? So let is one of those in JavaScript, and so is const. So what is let? What is a? What does this equal sign mean? What is this one? And why do we have this semicolon here? Well, let allows you to declare a variable. So does const. Okay, but let's get into const after we do this let. So let, you're saying this, what this line really means is we're saying let a equal 1, let b equal 2. That's what that means. The semicolon is just telling the computer, right, to say that, hey, this is the end of a statement. Otherwise, it can get confused sometimes. It won't know what the end of a statement is. And this is just technically you don't have to use these. You can do it without the semicolons, but I would highly recommend using semicolons because it you could, like I said, you could probably get away without using them, especially for this class, because this class isn't too, it's not too complex in the grand scheme of things. But once you're working in bigger projects and you're working in huge code bases, you're going to want to use semicolons. It is, I don't know, I would say it's considered a best practice, especially for JavaScript. Anyway, so what we're saying here is we're saying let A equal 1, let B equal 2. Those are the two variables that we created, right? Const, okay, we have const 3 equals 3, right? Const 3 str. str stands for string, which is a data type, and we're going to get into that in a second. Just bear with me. It's going to be the string that's 3, right? So what is the difference between const and let? So let, when you assign b the value of 2, let means that it can change. So we can make b a different value if we wanted to. So we can say b equals, I don't know, 5. It'll let you do that. With const, you cannot. So const stands for constant. So this is a regular just variable, and this is what's called it's a special type of variable. It's a constant variable. For this class, you're mostly going to be using let for the most part. You can use const as well. There's situations where you would need it, but for the most part, let is really where you want to be, especially for this course at least. But I just put this here so for awareness, and like I said, this is a little easier to use for this course. But anyway, so that's the biggest difference between these two types of variables, the let and the const. Const means it's constant. This cannot be reassigned. You cannot make 3 equal 2, for example. Like, it will crash. It will not let you do that. So if I run this, you see it crashes. So it says type error, assignment to constant variable. So that's this, right? And it tells you right here on line 6. So this is the other thing you guys want to learn how to do is sometimes when you see this, it's like, oh, what the heck does this mean, right? It actually tells you a good amount of information. A lot of times it'll tell you the error, assignment to constant variable, and then usually it'll give you a line. It'll give you, see, it gives you 2 lines here. Now you got to use some common sense and realize that we don't have over 1,000 lines of code in here. Well, we have all this stuff that I'm going to go over. So we're at 52. Okay, so like if you realize that you don't have 1,000 lines of code, it's probably going to be this line here. So it'll tell you, it says on row 6 on the 7th column. So the second number doesn't matter too much. It's more so that it tells you it's on the 6th line. So it kind of gives you a hint. It gives you a hint of what's wrong. It's saying, okay, you're assigning a constant variable on line 6. That's what's wrong. So you kind of have to have a little bit of background knowledge to really truly diagnose this. And anyway, that's just understand there is valuable information whenever you see this red stuff. It doesn't mean that it blew up or it died or that you have some catastrophic error. It's just telling you, like, hey, you need to fix this. So, anyway, see, and then here I made another constant variable saying that cannot reassign, right? So you cannot reassign this value. All right, let me move this down. All right, so then here we have the console.logs. Now this is a special type of string. So there's 3 different ways you can make a string. And again, I'm going to cover what that is in data types in just a second. But just pretty much for I guess a brief little overview of what a string really is. A string can be anything. So this is a number. So if you hover over this, well, maybe not that one, but this one, you see let b and then colon number. That's saying that it's a number. So it can be quite literally any number you want. It could be anywhere. It could be a negative number, a positive number, a decimal number, anything you want, any kind of number. JavaScript just sees it as a number. Now this, on the other hand, let's make a let str equal I don't know, put my name in there. Okay, this is now a string. So you can put, like I said, quite literally anything in here, like, and you'll see an example of this more, but the point is, this is what a string is. It's a collection of any character you want, essentially. And there's some special, there's the whole string section that I might go into, depending on how the rest of the course goes. But there's a lot of cool things you can do with strings. But for the purposes of this course, we're going to just keep it simple, and we're going to just understand that there's 3 different ways you can do strings. Okay, the first way is with double parentheses, right? So using this like that. The other way is by using single quotes like that. And then the last way is, and which is the way that I have here, is by using the tilde key on your keyboard. Now this looks very similar to the double parentheses, but you notice they are different. Now what is the tilde key? Well, the tilde key is this key right here on your keyboard. You don't have to hold shift for it. You just click it and it will just populate. Now this is very powerful because what the tilde key lets you do is it lets you mix the string and what you want consoled into it, right? So another way to write this one would be like so. If we did not use the tilde, if we were to just use a regular parentheses like this, or parentheses, not parentheses, quotes, right? You would have to do a comma, and you'd have to do like a space here, and you have to do an A like that. Which, I guess in this specific case, it doesn't look too bad because it's at the end of the string. But when you have stuff that's like in the middle, like you can see how that would get kind of like messy. So if you run this, you see it's a little bit different. This actually calls this calls a special method that every single thing has on it. So, and actually you don't even need a space here. I think it just puts a space automatically for you. Yeah. So you see it gives you the same output. This is just it's a little bit cleaner in the long run. You guys can do it however you want. But pretty much what you do is, so you would normally just type whatever you want in the string. Like here we have variable section A equals, and then whenever you want to put a variable, when you want a variable to be printed anywhere within this, so I can put one in here too. See, I can put a B here, and it'll just go. You see, watch B. B is 2, right? So that's the benefit of it. It reads a little bit nicer, and it reads a little bit cleaner, and it's a little bit easier to follow for somebody who's reading the program. That's why we have this. But anyway, to print the variable that you want inside of this, you have to use the tildes, okay? And you do a $sign and you do curly braces, and in between the curly braces you put the variable that you want printed. Again, this is the alternative. You can do it this way too if you want, but if we were to do that, like, let me show you this. Comma, B, comma, parentheses. Okay? You see how much messier that is? I don't know, in my opinion at least it is. But again, whatever you guys like. Okay, if you like this better, do it this way. For the purpose of this course, I'm going to be doing it this way. Yeah, so anyway, if we run this, you see that's all the output, right? So it won't change. So this cannot reassign, won't change because it's a constant, as is with the rest of these three. And these two, you can change them if you want, right? So, and I'll show you that at the here next in the next section. So, speaking of the next section, let's go down. All right, let's go. Let me move this. Oh, and the other thing you can do is comments. So forgot to go over comments. Okay, so this is a comment. What is a comment? A comment is something that only that humans will read. So when the computer sees these two slashes, everything in this line it's going to ignore. So this isn't going to get printed out. It's going to the computer is going to go. It's going to do line 8, 9, line 10, line 11, line 12. There's nothing there. It's going to get to line 13. It's going to see these two like slashes. It's going to go, okay, skip that. Who cares? Next. And that's what it's going to do. So the other way you can comment big sections out, is by using this slash star. So this is the rest of the things we're going to go over in this video. But if you see here, this is the ending of it, and this is the beginning of it. So it's going to pretty much ignore, the computer's going to see this. It's going to see a slash and a star, and it's going to go, okay, I can continue skipping until I see a star and a slash again. And here's a star and a slash. And then it won't ignore things. So you can say let g equals 0, right? And you see how that lights up now. Anyway, that's commenting. It's pretty useful. If you need to put more explanation in your code, but really you want to write your code well enough to the point where you don't even need comments. But for the purpose of this course, feel free to use them if you like. All right, so now we're going to go into the actual data types. So there are three main data types that I'm going to go over, and then there's a couple of special ones, which is undefined and null, which we'll get to in a second. But the three that we're going to cover right now is numbers, strings, and then Boolean values. Now you already got a short snippet of what numbers and strings are up here. Here's some more examples. So this is, we're taking A and we're reassigning it to be numbered to be 2. Let's make it 5. Right? Just so we don't confuse it with B, because B is 2 as well. So now we have A is 5, and this is a number. So in different programming languages, they handle these things a little bit differently. In other programming languages, let's make this negative just so you guys can see that as well. In other programming languages, if it's a whole number, positive or negative, as long as it doesn't have a decimal in it, it is considered an integer. So if you were to go program in Java or C or C++ or any other, statically typed language, it would be an integer. For JavaScript and even TypeScript, because, JavaScript and TypeScript are practically the same almost, it is considered a number, as is this one down here. As you can see, C equals 1.578745. This is also considered a number. So if I hover over this, A is a number. If I hover over this C, it is also a number. If we were in a different language like Java or any other ones I mentioned, this would end up being either a decimal or a double, just depending on the value. Just consider decimal for now. Forget about double, actually. But it would be considered a decimal. But again, in our world, it's considered just a number. So you don't have to worry about this. I'm just putting this in as extra. If it confuses you, just ignore it. But just understand these are numbers because, I mean, that's what they are, right? I mean, you're not pretty much what it is, right? It's a number. Strings, this is, like I said before, you can put anything in here. I have spaces, I have special characters, there's even a $sign in here, a star, letters, numbers, just random. You can put everything in here, right? That is what a string is. And what differentiates a string and a number, right? So what is the difference between a string and a number? So a string has these parentheses, right? So if I do let a str equal -5, this is going to be a string, not a number. And I know that might be weird and it might be a little confusing, but everything that has these parentheses around it, well, not just parentheses, right? Remember, I told you guys, you can have the single quotes, you can have the double quotes, or you can even have that tilde key I was telling you about. All of this makes it a string. There's just different ways to do the same thing, okay? So I prefer to use double quotes. Just, again, you can write it however you like. But that's what differentiates a number 5, right? This A, that's a number -5, versus a string that has the value -5 in it. So these are two very different things. They can represent the same thing if you wanted to, but in the end, there's special. These are completely. The computer looks at these two as two completely different worlds. Okay, they look the same to us, and I know it's weird, but you'll see as we get into the math library why the differentiation matters. Okay. Anyway, here we have a combination of the two, right? So when we combine these two, right here on line 19, this is a plus. There's different uses for this depending on what it is, but in this case, it's just going to combine these two, and I'll get into this again a little bit more. But for now, just understand that in this special case, if it's a number and a string, it's going to combine them. If it's two strings, it's also going to combine them. Actually, this will convert this into a string. See? Because there's a string here. But if we do addition, if we say, I don't know, let's say 1 plus a, all right? What do you think a is going to be? Oh, you know what? Let's make it 5. So 5 plus -5. All right, let's console log that too, actually. Console.log. And it's going to say data section, data types section. Addition. We're going to see what this is going to be equal to. Anyway, so the point is, when you do the combo is just going to turn it into a string if there's a string here. If there's not a string, this addition sign is going to just do a mathematical operation if both sides are numbers. If one or both are strings, then it's just going to convert it into a string, and you'll see when I run this code. So let's go ahead and run this. And here we are. We're up here in this section now, or I should say down here. So here's our addition result. It's 0, right? Because 5 plus -5 is 0. And then here's our A. Our A was -5. Here's our crazy string, that's a B. Here's C, the decimal, or I guess technically it's a number here. And then here's the combination, right? Notice how it did not print the 0. That's interesting. And if you guys want to know why, Google it. Figure out why did this not print? This is a good exercise for you guys to learn how to research some of these things on your own, because that's a big part of this. Big part of programming is learning how to Google. When you don't know something, if there's something you wish you could ask the teacher, Google it. Ask Google. Google will know. Google is like your know-it-all. I call it the IT Bible. So whatever questions you have, Google them first. If you can't Google them, then you ask the teacher. That's how it works. Okay. Next, we are going to go into Boolean values. So Boolean values. Boolean is named after a guy named George Boole. George Boole. I think it's either like this or like spelled like this or this. I'm not sure. But anyway, he was a mathematician. You can do a Wikipedia search on him, but it's named after him. And a Boolean is quite literally a 1 or a 0. It is the most basic and most primitive of values. In our case, it is just going to either be a true or a false. So here I have it saying true, but you can also have it be false if you want. So this is very useful. This is extremely useful, and it pretty much controls the flow of your program, this having Boolean values. There's also different ways that you can compare values. So that pretty much that give you the Boolean value. So in this example, we're using this 3 and 3 string. Okay. So the 3 is the number 3 and 3 str. Str just stands for string. This is a number 3 string, right? It's not not a number, but it's a string that has 3 in it. Now we are comparing this two different ways. You notice we're saying let 3num equal 3 string equals 3 with 3 equal signs equals 3 str. And then there's another one with 2 equal signs. What does this mean? This means we're comparing. So if you have 2 equal signs or if you have 3 equal signs. Okay, let me comment this out so it doesn't complain. This is comparing the value, and this is a in-depth comparison. So think of it as if you have 2 equal signs, you're loosely comparing them. And if you have 3 equal signs, you are deeply comparing them. Okay? It's a more strict version. So the 3 equal signs are like a stricter version of the 2 equal signs. And I'll show you how that works. I'll show you how that works in just a second. So here we're console logging the result of having 3 equal signs, and here we're console logging the result of having 2 equal signs. So let's see what the difference is. Aha. So this is our Boolean. This is our very first value that we have up here. So we're just saying it's true. Okay, that's no big deal. But here we have a false and then we have a true. Interesting, right? So here it's saying that if you use 3 equal signs to compare the number 3 with the string 3, it is false. But if you use 2 of them, it is true. That's interesting, right? This is because, again, this is a very loose comparison. You should not really use this. This isn't a very good way to use, and I know right now you guys haven't came across this yet. This is your first time seeing it, but I promise you will see this in the upcoming lectures. This is very, very important for the next assignment, actually for assignment 3. And I'll go into this more on assignment 3. But for now, all I can tell you is when you get to assignment 3, think of this as a little preview, because this is a Boolean value in the end anyway. See, Boolean, Boolean. You do not want to use the 2 equal signs. You want to stick to the 3. It's a much better. It's a best practice, really. So. Anyway, that is Booleans. They're pretty much true or false values, and they will help you with controlling the flow of your program. You can say, if something is true, you can do something, or if something's false, you can do something else. So it's very powerful. Okay, next we have, this is the last part in here. Well, no, we have this other part here as well. The getting user input, which we'll go over last. Okay, so the second to last part we have is undefined and null values. So undefined, what does undefined mean? It means exactly that. What is null? And what does null mean? What is the difference between these two, right? So in programming, and this goes for every language, null is something. It's not nothing. So null, you're just saying that it is nothing. This is weird. I know it's a weird thing to grasp. So here you're stating that this variable is nothing. Here, this truly is nothing. There's a big difference between these two in the programming world. And you don't want to have undefines. Undefines are not good. You want to try to have things null if you can. Because this stems from lower level programming languages like C and C++, and having unassigned pointers, which is very, very bad, and it can really make some really crazy things happen in your program. But that's not something we have to really worry about too much in this course, but it's just something to be aware of. These will actually be very useful, even having something undefined. It's not really ideal, but having something undefined or having something null, it will allow you to evaluate things as truthy or falsy for these Boolean values. So these are actually evaluated as false. So if something's undefined or something is null, and if you put them in an if statement, which we'll get to if statements later, but it will evaluate it as false. So it's pretty neat. And again, we can run this. Oh, it's complaining about this here. So when we run this, there it is, null and undefined when you print these. But it's just, these aren't, I don't think they'll come up too much. You might see them in some of your assignments, but not really. It's just something to be aware of. Okay, so the last thing is, well, actually, I'm going to go over one more thing after this, but this is getting user input. So this is how you do it. So you call what is called a function. I know we haven't gone over what functions are, but you're going to just make peace with it. You're going to have to just trust me when I say that this is just going to get the value from the user. Okay, so this prompt, and it's going to assign it to this constant variable called user input, and then we're going to print the type of it. This is going to tell you the type, which is going to be a string. Okay, and then after that, we're going to console log the value as well. So we're going to get the type, and then we're going to get what we put in, right? So let's go ahead and run this. And here's the prompt, right? And you say input some data. So you can put whatever you want in here. So input some data. So I don't know. This is the second lecture. And we can press enter. And there it is. It tells you it is a string. And then here's what we actually put in. That's the value. Pretty cool, right? So this you're going to need this. This line of code is going to be, you're going to need for the second assignment. So don't worry too much about how it works or why it works. Just make peace with it. And I know some of you guys like to know the why and the how. And I was like that as well when I first started learning the program. But really, like, sometimes you just have to make peace with it, that this is how it works until you get to that point. Because programming, it's not, it does build on it definitely builds on itself. Don't 100% it does, but like there's certain concepts you're not going to understand until you get later on in the course. You just have to understand that, okay, this is just how it works, right? So you don't understand what functions are. This is a function, and this function takes in a parameter, and actually if you highlight over it, it takes two optional parameters, right? Say function prompt, this question means it's an optional parameter. Don't worry about that, okay? Don't worry about it. I know it's funky. I know it's like one of those things that's just going to maybe eat at you, but just you're going to just have to make peace with it. Trust me when I tell you that. This is just how it works. And we'll get into it later why. The why you'll understand later, but for now you just have to know how to use it. Okay. The last thing I want to go over is going to be, well, this we're going to do in the next video. But the last thing I want to go over is, I forgot to do this, was how you can assign these. What are the rules for naming your variables? So if you see down here, I have an underscore here. Underscore null. Why did I do that? Because I can't make null a variable, because this is one of those special reserved keywords that I told you guys at the beginning of this video. You can't just make it whatever you want. What else? Yeah, so the way to name variables. Okay, so let's go here. Rule number 1, it cannot start with a number. So you can't do this, I don't know, equals something, right? It cannot start with a number. It cannot start with a special character. You can't do this either. Okay? You cannot do that. You can start with an underscore if you want. That is okay. Or you can start with a capital letter or a lowercase letter, as you can see. You can make the number. After that, you can put numbers in here. It is not recommended to put numbers in your variables, though. But you can if you want. You can put underscores in between these if you like. You can even put them at the end. You can even make it look like this if you want to. But that's it. Those are the rules. So the beginning of it has to either be a lowercase, uppercase letter, or an underscore. After that, you can do whatever you want, and you can't put special characters in the middle of them either. So you can only use so for the first letter in a variable, it has to be underscore or a letter that's uppercase or lowercase. After that, it can be more underscores. You can do anything else in between or at the end. You can even put numbers at the end. You can put numbers in between. But that's it. You cannot do special characters in the beginning, in the end, or in the middle of these names, except the underscore. Underscore you can do whatever you want with, as many times as you like. Alright, that is it for this video. In the next video, I'm going to go over the math library, and I will see you guys in the next one. Happy coding.